Joined by one of the coaches you just heard from in the feature, Neil Prolly, formerly of Complexity and the World's Analyst Desk. It's great to have you in Europe. Let's actually talk about the coaching role and what you do for H2K, in a bit more detail, because we don't really know too much about yourself here in the European scene.
For them, I kind of just watch every single scrim, and I think the norm is that the coach is going to try to criticize everything you do. And one big difference that I do is kind of think more about hypotheticals or weigh the pros and cons and advantages of stuff. So it's more of what's the best instead of what you guys need to be doing here. So.
Okay, that's quite interesting. A theoretical approach as opposed to a critique-only route. Something that I would like to ask you is how exactly you got scouted and joined H2K? Because as we said, you were on the analyst desk last year. You actually played in the LCS yourself. So how did you manage to cross the pond?
I don't know. I think a lot of luck. I don't really know why I got chosen. They just kind of asked, and at the time I was weighing my options to stay as a pro player or be a coach. And I actually had a lot more passion being a coach at the time, so I decided to go with it. And at the same time, they happened to be a really talented team, so I had faith in them and passion for the job, so I decided to take it and come across the pond.
Yeah, well, it definitely seems to be interesting. You guys had a tough first week, managed to pick up a win yesterday. Something that myself and Deficio were commenting on is how you were discussing and chatting to Ryu before the game. How does a North American mid laner talk to a Korean import in a European ex-challenger, now LCS team? Talk to me about that dynamic of working with Ryu.
I mean, I'm glad he's really respectful, but there are definitely times where I'm sitting there hey, Ryu, why don't we do, this and this with mid? And he just looks at me and goes, bad. And I'm all right, so we're just not going to do that. But it is really nice because the language barrier doesn't affect us because I kind of know what he's thinking at the same time. So we can kind of move past a lot of things where normally I'd be sitting there how do I explain this? It's kind of, I know he knows this, so we can kind of go on with our lives.
Well, that's actually good to hear. I want to ask about the rest of the team's mentality. As I mentioned, you guys had some tough losses last week, pretty heavy-handed from Fnatic, despite having a good laning phase. You guys completely gave up the game against Copenhagen Wolves, again, despite having a strong early. How do you bounce back from losses like that?
It's actually really, really hard, and it's purely dependent on the players. I can do maybe 5% of the work to get them in the right mindset, and the rest is them pushing forward. So the win yesterday was really them conquering the fact that we started 0-2 in LCS as a first new LCS team. So they're actually doing a really good job mentality-wise, and the win yesterday is actually hopefully going to show really big results today.
Well, we'll have to find out. It was MYM you took down yesterday. Today, you are facing off against the Giants. What in particular have you done different for this particular matchup on today's game?
Well, there's something I don't want to talk about that we did to prepare, but it's mostly a lot of teams will try to go for denial picks or denial bans and stuff. And what we're going to be doing is something more of we want what we want kind of thing. Because we know how to play the game if we get the right stuff and the comfort. Comfort's a really big thing with this team. So that's kind of our goal for right now. And that's what we're going to be doing for today.
All right, well, best of luck in your game. We'll see if you have an answer to Willibs. Jax, you're welcome to join your team just before picks and bans. For now, we're going to throw it over to the caster desk to take us into game.